Hi, I'm Brandi Harleaux, Chief Executive Officer at South Post Oak Recycling Center, a metal recycling company based here in Houston, but servicing the greater Houston area as well as other domestic markets. We've been in business for 28 years, and I'm very proud to be a second generation owner in the metal recycling space. I like to say in this industry, we were green before green was hip. So definitely in a sustainable space. We serve anybody from households who are bringing in aluminum cans and rims off of their vehicles to contractors such as HVAC contractors and electricians who have things like insulated wire as well as HVAC units. We service light industry. So your machine shops, your fabrication shops, anyone who has scrap metal or metal as a byproduct of their work, that's who we service. We even service government entities such as universities and our cities and our governments who are getting rid of or recycling things like valves or aluminum signs. So the spectrum and the range of who we can serve really is broad. I like to say we pay cash for recyclable trash. In saying that, it's really not trash, it's a commodity. And all of these commodities can be recycled and people get paid a value for it. And not only do they get paid a value for it, but we're diverting material from the landfills at the same time. So it's a great industry to be in, a great business. I like to say that we differentiate ourselves or we offer value through our service model. For me, it's very important to focus on culture. I believe that if I take care of my people, they'll take care of my customers. And so that's where my focus lies. It also focused on service and quick service to our customers. If somebody's calling for a pickup, then we want to make sure we get out there really quickly. Speaking of quick pickup, we actually have a hybrid model. We have a delivery model and a pickup model, which is a part of our value. Some of our customers come to us to deliver material. Those that have larger quantities, 10,000 plus maybe, of particular commodities, we actually deploy different containers to them to make it easier at their job sites or at their businesses to recycle their scrap metal. You know, sometimes people say, what's the difference in waste and recycling? I think it's very easily. Waste are things that don't have any additional purpose, you know, or any additional reuse. So there's reuse and there's recycling. Waste are materials where they cannot be repurposed for any other reason. Recycling materials actually have a downstream to go to, okay? So it is a commodity, it has a value, it is not garbage, okay? And so I oftentimes think that they get mixed up. But just think about it. Recycling has a value. It can be reused and repurposed. Waste does not have a value. It's reached the end of its useful life. One thing's interesting, and I think a lot of times people think of recycling and they think of curbside. You think of the green bin at your curbside, and that's an important channel for recycling. But the truth or the fact of the matter is that only represents 30% of recyclables. Believe it or not, the other 70% of recyclables is what we call commercial grade recycling. So it's the material that comes through facilities like ours. It is those gutters from your house, or those window frames from buildings or from your house. It's aluminum cans. It's the valves that come out of facilities and maintenance departments. It's the HVAC units or the air handlers that come off of buildings. That actually represents 70% of recyclables that is then used to divert materials from landfill and actually reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So when you think of recycling, definitely think of broader than the bin. It is definitely broader than the bin. Sometimes metal that can be recycled is in places that you wouldn't even think of. We work with ambulance manufacturing companies that has sheet aluminum as a byproduct of their manufacturing process. We work with fabrication shops that deal with high temperature alloys that they're machining for the oil and gas industry. And a byproduct of their production is producing something called shavings. We deal with electrical installation companies, companies that actually go into and fulfill contracts where they go and do all the wiring. They do the electrical wiring for companies. Well, the old wire actually has to come out. And what happens with that old wire? It can come to places like ours where we recycle it. Last but not least, people say, well, Brandi, where does your product go? Well, I'm in the business. I'm in a commodities business. I'm in a recycling business. So that material actually goes to mills and foundries, certified aluminum mills, certified brass foundries, who actually take that material, melt it down, and they produce new material that goes back into the manufacturing supply chain. The last fun fact, I like to ask people, how long do you think it takes an aluminum can to go from your shelf in your house back onto your shelf so that you can buy a six-pack, let's say? Well, is it 5 days? Is it a year? Actually, it averages about 60 days. As long as people take their aluminum cans, they recycle it. We work with mills and foundries. It goes back through the manufacturing loop and it's back on the shelf. I call that recycling at its finest. Oftentimes people say, Brandi, how did you get into this industry? And I think it's really interesting when you start to look at multi-generational businesses. And oftentimes, the percentage or the ratio of a business going from first to second, I believe is about 50 to 60%. And then it shrinks down to about 15 to 20% once it gets to the third generation. And for me, it's for reasons that the children don't feel like it's their passion. And so my experience was that I was in corporate America about 15 years, and I worked in organizational development, strategies, and mergers and acquisitions. And I was last at the Walt Disney Company. And so I thought for a while, what is it going to be next that I do? And after meeting with a business coach, he says, don't your family own a recycling business in Houston? And I said, yeah, but I have no interest in going into the scrap business. But I thought about it, just like a lot of people do at that different junctures within your career. And 10 years after that conversation, I decided that if I was going to work this hard, I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I much prefer to go work for myself. So in January of 2013, I resigned from my 15 years in corporate America, packed up my belongings in Los Angeles, and moved back to Houston to take over my family business. I have to say, it is a decision that I have not looked back on. I think entrepreneurship, I believe I'm passionate about building on a legacy. Therefore, I am here to continue to do that.